Mitch Keller shoved, and Nick Gonzales' late-game heroics returned as the Pittsburgh Pirates defeated the St. Louis Cardinals 2-1 on Monday. How can they build on it with Paul Skenes on the mound tonight? We'll discuss all of that on today's episode of Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every single day, your Pittsburgh Pirates every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is, of course, your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates, every Monday through Friday here on the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Ethan Smith. You can find me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates for all of your news, analysis, opinions, and reactions to everything going on in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates from a lifelong fan to lifelong fans just like you. Today's episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Make sure you use Booking.com for all of your travel needs this summer and even going into the fall, because the way this year is moving, the holiday season's pretty much right around the corner. And I know there's a lot of you maybe wanting to travel to your rival cities amidst this competitive stretch of Pirates baseball that we are in the middle of, because it's fun. It's fun to go see the Buccos play at PNC Park. It's fun to go see them play anywhere else. So make sure you use Booking.com to go do that. And last night, the Pirates opened up their series against the St. Louis Cardinals, a team that they have struggled with a ton this year. This has been a team that in the Cardinals that the Pirates have not really been able to figure out for whatever reason. And I've been forecasting on this show that the Pirates, one, were eventually going to figure out this Cardinals team, and two, that this Cardinals team has been playing over their heads for a good portion of the year. Well, last night we got a classic Cardinals-Pirates game, as I like to call it, at least in the year 2024. We got some very good starts in this game. One from Andre Pallante, who had 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, and 3 strikeouts. And Mitch Keller, who ended up getting the victory, or not getting the win, sorry, went to Aroldis Chapman. But Mitch Keller in his first start post-All-Star break, 7 innings pitched, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, and 3 Ks for Keller, drops the ERA to a 3.34, back to the Mitch Keller we know. Obviously, we all know that the Sunday before the All-Star break, that Mitch Keller, of course, only went 3 innings, snapping his insane streak that he had going of going 5 innings or more for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And some people worried, but I think that it was just a rest thing. He's in the top 10 in all of baseball right now, folks, in starting pitching as far as innings are concerned. So he's a guy that, yeah, albeit he's done it before, you still want to make sure that he's healthy for this very important stretch that is the last 2 months, because the Pirates are very much in it right now. We're going to go take a look at that at the end of the show as we update you on the NL wild card and how other teams are attacking the deadline that are around the Pittsburgh Pirates. But this was classic Mitch Keller, and not the bad Mitch Keller. When I say classic Mitch Keller, I'm talking last 2 years Mitch Keller. Didn't have a ton of strikeouts, but he did a very good job at filling the strike zone, did a very good job at just not allowing a ton of hard contact. I know he gave up 6 hits, but when you keep the runs off the board, that doesn't really matter. And he used his defense behind him very well. Also, I want to give a shout out too, because you guys probably see the show is kind of modeled around Keller and Gonzales, but Rowdy Tellez really saved that game last night with a beautiful play that he had at first base to dive and really keep arguably 2 runs off the board. I believe it was in the 6th inning. I can't remember which inning it was in, but man, what a play by Rowdy. What a turnaround by Rowdy Tellez from how he was playing in April and May. And he's also been pretty solid defensively as far as everything is concerned at the first base position. So can't be too mad about that. But Mitch Keller, again, you love to see this from him because he is the second best pitcher on the staff right now behind Paul Skenes. He is what many on the team consider to be the ace of the staff. He's kind of the conductor of the starting pitching train that keeps everything going. And a lot of people got worried on Sunday against the Chicago White Sox. I was not. I could just tell that I think the Pirates wanted to give him some added rest. It looked like they knew that they need Mitch Keller, obviously, down the stretch of this season to really and truly compete for an NL wildcard spot on top of having Paul Skenes and eventually Jared Jones and Bailey Falter. And he did just that last night. He gave the Pirates a chance to win. He pitched 7 strong innings, only allowed 1 earned run. And a lot of times when you do that, you're going to win baseball games with this pitching staff because all you're asking the offense to do is get 2 runs. And that's what they managed to do last night in the form of Nick Gonzales having a solid game again, 1 for 4, obviously with the game-winning RBI. O'Neal Cruz had an RBI to score Brian Reynolds earlier in the game in the 3rd inning. Obviously, the Cardinals tied it in the 5th. But Nick Gonzales, folks, has been pretty ridiculous for all things considered since he came up this year because he's been the most clutch player on the Pirates roster and has not even been here for the entire season. His clutch rating comes in at a 1.08, which as far as all of this is concerned, Jack Sawinski is second at 0.96. Take that with what you will. O'Neal Cruz at a 0.42, Michael A. Taylor at a 0.14, and Edward Olivares and Alika Williams at a 0.12. So highest clutch rating on the team. Gonzales has just been really good. He's been a very solid middle of the order guy. They've been flirting with him in the cleanup spot. And it's kind of hard not to put him there right now because he's just an RBI machine. He continues to score runs for this team. He has 38 RBIs on the season, and the OPS is just under a 700 at a 697, average at a 263 with 5 home runs. So you've liked what you've seen from Gonzales, 1, because of the season that he had last season, and 2, he's given this middle of the order some juice. Because now when you have Nick Gonzales at that 4 spot and he keeps the game going and keeps the lineup on rotation, you have Kutch, Reynolds, and Cruz ahead of him that are going to get on base. And that's what happened last night versus the day before against the Phillies, is that those guys were getting on base. O'Neal Cruz was on base twice. Reynolds was on base once. Kutch was on base once. And Kutch and Reynolds both scored runs in this game. Meanwhile, Gonzales had a hit and Tellez had a hit. So you had 6 hits from your top 5 hitters last night. That's how you win these type of games in these low-scoring affairs, is you win games like this by getting contributions from the top of your lineup. And the bottom of the lineup didn't exactly do all that bad either. I mean, Sawinski was on base twice, Palacios had a base hit, and then Connor Joe and Joey Bart did not get on base last night. But if you could get your starting lineup to have contributions like they had last night, and you get those strong pitching outings from Mitch Keller, Luis Ortiz, Paul Skenes, it doesn't matter. More often than not, this Pirates team is going to win that game. And that's why they won 2-1, because all the pitching staff asked for was 2 runs. Aroldis Chapman came in, phenomenal inning from him, 1 inning pitched, 1 strikeout. David Bednar got his 18th save on the season. Obviously, gave up a hit there, got a little dicey, made it work with the strikeout as well. They only allowed 7 hits to the St. Louis Cardinals last night, 1 earned run as well. And going into tonight's game, I mean, you have the momentum back again. The Pirates 8-2 in their last 10 once again. They are 9 out of their last 11, I believe, as far as wins and losses are concerned. And they're going to be looking for their 4th consecutive series victory tonight with Paul Skenes on the mound, who is going to be making his first start post All-Star break. What should we expect? Why was the rest a great thing for Paul Skenes? And so much more. We'll discuss in just a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn more about. And yeah, I'm even talking about your rival cities with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay even in your baseball rival city. From hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com, on the site, or in the Booking.com app to explore your rivals' cities today. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Head to FanDuel.com right now for all of your betting needs because I love sports. I love them so much that I never want them to stop. And with the sports not sporting like I want them to, I have to go to FanDuel because it lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus on a daily basis. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer because FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball and an official sponsor of the Locked On Podcast Network. And welcome back, everybody, to the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure, after you make this your first listen of the day, that you make Locked On Sports Today your second listen of the day. Locked On Sports Today is always bringing you all of your up-to-date news on everything going on in the sports world on Locked On. It's found on YouTube and all of your audio platforms, as well as Amazon Fire TV, where you can also find this show. And make Locked On MLB with Sully your third listen of the day. He covers everything, excuse me, going on in the world of Major League Baseball. And, check in on our NL Central rivals too. Locked On Brewers, Locked On Reds, Locked On Cardinals, and of course, Locked On Cubs. Paul Skenes is back, folks, and Paul Skenes is ready and ramped up to make his first start post All-Star break. And obviously, any day that Paul Skenes is pitching, you have to be locked in. You have to be watching everything like a hawk when Paul Skenes is on the mound, especially against a divisional rival. And let's remind ourselves that the last time that Paul Skenes pitched against the St. Louis Cardinals, he got a standing ovation from the crowd in St. Louis. Excuse me. And Paul Skenes has just been nuts. Truthfully, he's just been insane. 89 strikeouts already at this point in his career. The first number one overall selection to make the All-Star game the following season. I mean, it's just hard to fathom how good he's been. And you look at this last start that he had against St. Louis, 6 1/3, 5 hits, 8 strikeouts, no earned runs. That's what you want to see from Paul Skenes again tonight, because the Pirates, as I already mentioned before the break, have a chance here with Paul Skenes on the mound, arguably the best option they could have on the mound for this, to win their fourth consecutive series. That's it's kind of insane. And it might be more than that. I don't remember. No, they split with the Mets. I apologize. But if you win your fourth straight series, especially in the midst of where you are in this wild card right now, everything starts to fall into place, and everything will continue to fall into place if you can win 2 out of 3. That's why winning that series against the Philadelphia Phillies was such a huge thing, which we talked about on the show yesterday, because it's put the Pirates in a spot now where if they can continue to win games like this and have their stars like Mitch Keller and Paul Skenes and Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz, all these guys that have made all the contributions they can make, contribute every day, then more often than not, this team is going to be in the win column. And on top of that, the more series you win, especially in a stretch where you're about to have Arizona, Houston, Arizona, San Diego, the Dodgers, San Diego, that's going to be very important for this wild card race. And if you can win against St. Louis, that gives you some leeway. That allows you not to fall off the face of the earth as far as everything is concerned with this wild card race. But tonight specifically, name a better scenario. You have a chance now to overtake the St. Louis Cardinals, who, mind you, folks, are the second wild card team. The Pirates right now are just a game behind them. So they have a chance to pretty much overtake a team in front of them, a divisional rival in the St. Louis Cardinals. On top of that, you have your best pitcher in Paul Skenes going for you tonight. I will be there, by the way. Take that with what you will. I think the Jim Rosati curse might have switched over to me because I'm like 3-6 this year, but that's neither here nor there. It's fine. We're not going to speak that into existence further. But Paul Skenes, folks, I mean, you look at what he did before the break against the Brewers. He had that start where he threw a no-hit outing, 7 innings, caused some controversy because a lot of people wanted to see him go for the no-hitter, especially with the break coming up. Didn't allow it. And it was a smart decision not to allow Paul Skenes to do that because Paul Skenes is very important, obviously, to what this team is trying to do this season. He's important for the future, too. So remind yourself that not only this year is Paul Skenes important, he's very important for what they're trying to do 2025, 2026, 2027, and beyond. So you want to take care of this kid and treat him somewhat like glass. But also, if he breaks his own glass, let him do it. Like, let's say tonight he's pitching a gem again, which I would expect to happen. 6 innings pitched. He has 1 hit allowed, and he's at 85 pitches. Just let him go out there for the 7th and go towards 100. That's all I ask is Derek Shelton. Yeah, I know. That's a jump scare for some people. Derek Shelton has been very good in how he's handled Paul Skenes since his arrival on May 11th. I think he's shown a willingness to let Skenes go deep into games when he sees it fit. And I think that that's a good thing because you want Skenes to get the experience of going 7-8 innings, but you also want to make sure that you're doing it in a healthy way, if that makes sense. You want to make sure that you're not just throwing him 7 innings and making him throw 105 pitches every single start. You want to make sure that if he's getting the 7 innings, that he's only at 90 pitches or 95 pitches, which is a good commodity to have. Because on top of everything that we saw last night, you only threw Aroldis Chapman and David Bednar last night. And neither of them threw a considerable amount of pitches. So now you have Paul Skenes, who we know sometimes struggles to get late in the games, but Mitch Keller helped out the bullpen last night. And if you find a way to get Skenes to go 7 today, that's huge because now your bullpen just gets more fresh and fresh and fresh because Bednar and Chapman yesterday combined only threw 24 pitches. They'll be available tonight. So you have 2 of your best relievers available on top of having your best starter available. And what I would expect from Paul Skenes tonight, excuse me, by the way, is that when you look at how he's handled this season, he's handled it with grace. He's burst through every wall that he could go through. Period. He just has. I mean, Paul Skenes has been absolutely nuts. And when you consider all of this, especially against divisional opponents, he's pitched a gem against every single divisional opponent that he's faced this year. And that's huge. Those are the games you want to win. Because, folks, if the Pirates are going to keep winning games, especially, excuse me, my nose keeps running. If the Pirates are going to win games, especially now, and go on a torrid streak, you can even go back to the Brewers series and note how big of a series win that was. Because next thing you know, you can look down, the Pirates are 6 games back of the Milwaukee Brewers, a game back of the Cardinals, and have a pretty considerable lead now on Chicago and Cincinnati at 3 games and 3.5 games. So don't rule the division out either, folks. Seriously, don't rule it out. Because if they can continue to get pitching from guys like Paul Skenes, who, again, expectations tonight, especially with the rest, I would expect him to go 6 or 7 innings and look good in doing so. But if you could keep pitching the way they've been, continue to use the options they have, and just let your offense follow suit, folks, the Pirates could be in a very good spot. And they have put themselves in a very good spot amidst this crazy NL wildcard race that still features a good amount of teams we're going to discuss some of these other teams, what they might be up to during the deadline, and how it might affect the Pirates on the final part of today's episode, Locked On Pirates. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. They have millions of parts for your MVP, and you can win every time with parts that fit your ride. Because passion, drive, and patience are the formula for winning championships and also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has got you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, and you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Today's episode of Locked On Pirates is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100, because you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks on America's #1 daily fantasy sports app that has over 5 million active members. If you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered every week. From lowering select player stat projections on, well, today's Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. And of course, you can bet on Paul Skenes whenever you want on Prize Picks. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks. And thank you to all the wonderful sponsors of the Locked On Podcast Network and the Locked On Pirates podcast. Folks, thank you again for always tuning into this show, as you always do every Monday through Friday here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates every day. And right now, your Pittsburgh Pirates at the time of recording are a half game out of the final wild card spot, trailing just the St. Louis Cardinals and the New York Mets. They are also tied with the San Diego Padres, about a half a game ahead of the Arizona Diamondbacks, 3 games ahead of the Cubs, 3.5 ahead of Cincinnati, or 2.5. Yeah, 3.5 ahead of Cincinnati, almost 4 games ahead of San Francisco, and 4 games ahead of Washington. So that's about the extent of this NL wildcard race. And what I find interesting, and some stuff that happened over the weekend, is a team to watch in all of this is the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves, a team that I've kind of penned as just a team that was going to make the playoffs as the first wild card, has already lost Ronald Acuna and Spencer Strider this year. Now they lose Ozzie Albies. They pick up Whit Merrifield. He left the game early last night. So you have to wonder just how much the Braves can withstand some of this stuff. If the Braves do have a downfall of sorts, which I'm not saying they will, I'm just theorizing here. If they do have a downfall of sorts, that opens up a lot of things for this Pirates team and for everybody, because the Pirates played the Braves pretty well this year. They split the series with Atlanta. They played the Phillies very well this year. Doesn't really matter. They played the Brewers pretty well this year too. That's why I said don't rule out the division. But if the Braves fall down, next thing you know, they get added to this conversation. So that gives you about 10 teams that are fighting for 3 spots. But are there really anymore? Because when you look around, Washington more than likely will sell. Now, when I say sell, I don't mean they're going to give away C.J. Abrams or anybody crazy. They're going to probably move on from Lane Thomas, who may be a Pirates target. They move maybe move from Jesse Winker, who could also be a Pirates target. You look at a lot of their expiring contracts, and those are guys that I think you could see them move. San Francisco will more than likely sell. You have the Dodgers, who are going to win the division. Then you have San Diego and Arizona, who are pretty ahead of them right now in this race and also in their division. San Francisco lost Jung-Ho Lee for a considerable amount of time, and I just think that they'll probably sell. Not a lot of intriguing pieces for them to sell, but they could probably notice where they are. Cincinnati had a terrible series against the Nationals over the weekend. Believe beat the Braves last night. Cincinnati has already kind of shown a willingness that they're going to move on from some of their expiring contracts, like Frankie Montas, Fernando Cruz, guys like that. So Cincinnati, not out of the race. None of these teams are really out of it, but they, with the trade deadline so close, these GMs and these front offices have to make decisions. And it can change pretty quickly. I mean, look at the Chicago Cubs, for instance, who have said already that they're going to be making moves to look forward to 2025 and beyond, and not really make moves as far as 2024 is concerned. In simple terms, that means they're selling. Now, the Cubs obviously more than likely will not trade with the Pittsburgh Pirates, seeing as they are just 3 games behind and can close that gap in one swift move. But that's where this all gets interesting, because Arizona and San Diego are going to buy. Mets, probably going to buy. St. Louis, probably going to buy. Pirates, it gets interesting, because the Pirates can buy, and they can buy on different levels, because when you look at all of these teams that I just mentioned, Pirates, unquestioned, have the best farm system and the best trade packages that they could come up with. But are you comfortable moving on from a Bubba Chandler or a Termar Johnson or a Thomas Harrington or a Braxton Ashcraft even? Are you comfortable doing that? Are you comfortable moving on from a Jack Brannigan? Short answer is you should be. They're prospects. Bubba Chandler or Termar Johnson, to me, are untouchable. But if you're also going to tell me that trading Bubba Chandler and Termar Johnson is going to get somebody that would help in a playoff push for 2024, something we haven't seen in almost a decade, then I'd probably just be okay with it. Because the Pirates don't just have Bubba Chandler in their system as far as pitching is concerned. Thomas Harrington, Anthony Solometto, Xander Muth, Mike Burrows, Braxton Ashcraft. They have a lot of talent down there as far as pitching is concerned, and have a lot of talent up here. The Pirates, I think, will be conservative buyers. That's kind of what I've told myself. They're going to go after the likes of Lane Thomas or Randy Arozarena or Taylor Ward. I don't see them going after Jazz. I don't see them going after Luis Robert or Garrett Crochet. Seen that one too. I don't see them making that kind of move, because quite frankly, they don't need to. They just need to fill their holes in the corner outfield, center field, and maybe the corner infield. Maybe go get a reliever to just supplement this bullpen. That's all I think they're going to do. But when you look around at the other teams as well, just remember that they're more than likely going to be conservative sellers. I think the word conservative is what you're going to see a lot from a lot of MLB pundits, is that the Pirates will likely be conservative buyers. The Nationals will likely be conservative sellers. The Giants, conservative sellers. Cincinnati and Chicago, conservative sellers. The sellers market just does not, it doesn't outweigh the buyer's market. And that's just the reality. And also, for what the Pirates need, there are things out there, but you got to go and find them. And just don't just throw names at a wall and hope they stick. Think about the domino effects of the moves that they're going to make. And think about how it's going to affect what is already here. And by the way, what is already here is more important than what could potentially be here a week and a half from now, because the Pirates still have some business to be done. And they have a chance to win a series tonight against the St. Louis Cardinals, pick up their 4th series victory in a row, and overtake their division rival. That's what's important right now, and that's what we'll be watching tonight. And I'll be at the game tonight, folks. So stop by and say hi if you're there. And also thank you for tuning into the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates, every single day. My name is Ethan Smith. You can find me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates for all of your news, analysis, opinions, and reactions to everything going on in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Find the show on YouTube and all of your audio platforms. We'll be back tomorrow with a recap of Paul Skenes' first start since the All-Star break and talking about whatever happens in the game tonight and previewing the final game of the series. But until then, see you on the flip side.